Hello, and welcome to the 2024 wide receiver rankings. Like, subscribe, and let's get going with our top 10. Up top, starting with the cover boy, CeeDee Lamb. The contract situation is annoying. And I'm no expert, but I think it'll be sorted out before the season. That aside, he's my clear wide receiver one. The overall wide receiver one from last year with no changes except a worse rushing attack, a retired Michael Gallup, and even older Brandon Cooks. The risk score is 0, and the perfect example of an ideal first round pick once the contract's figured out. Reek is similar. Little change, just slightly more risk with Tua's injury, history, and his age. And I think there are 3 guys with the clear best shot at finishing as the overall wide receiver one. That is CeeDee, Hill, and Jamar Chase. When everything is normal, Burrow healthy, Chase healthy, there has not been a receiver much better in fantasy football. He is second by 0.3 points per game all time to Justin Jefferson when he's healthy and when Burrow's healthy. And he's only played 45 career games. The Bengals will be more pass heavy than ever this season, and this could just very well be the year that his stats finally equal out to his talent outside of, say, his rookie season. I do have JJ at 5. If Amon-Ra averages 18 points per game and Jefferson averages 18.5, I'll live with it. I'd much rather take that than an increased risk of 18 points per game compared to 15 points per game. And yes, I know, he's quarterback proof. Quarterback proof is a spectrum. I promise you, if CeeDee Lamb had Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson had Dak Prescott, nobody would be saying, oh, well, CeeDee Lamb is quarterback proof, so they're the same. In the games without Kirk Cousins, he still averaged 3 points per game less. Still amazing, still a wide receiver one, but he wasn't top 5, and that was with Hawkinson missing half of those games. Wilson is basically the exact same as Chase, just more extreme risk. If Rodgers stays healthy all season, there is no easier bet to be a top 5 fantasy receiver because of the isolated volume that he gets. And Puka, on the other hand, has less upside with Kupp healthy, but is way safer than people are saying. Here's an activity for you. What rookie receivers in NFL history have put up 1,200 receiving yards and had a bad second season or a bad career? Literally nobody. And I said 1,200 yards. Puka had 1,500. He'll be fine. AJ is worthy of top 10, and the Kellen Moore situation makes his upside interesting. However, that upside to risk ratio for me, compared to the other top 10 guys, isn't as good. Moore's offense could very well feature Smith at an improved rate, and it's a run-heavy offense, and in the second half of 2023, he was wide receiver 39 in points per game. Marvin and London are 2 of those guys who are safer than you'd think, with the sky's the limit. First, Marv, he's really the Cardinals' only receiver. There's a reason they took him top 5. A generational talent who has a good quarterback and an awful team to put him into fantasy-friendly situations. Then we have Drake London. The guy can command targets. And with Kirk Cousins throwing you the ball, the fantasy history is incredible. As a rookie, he posted a 29% target share. That's the 3rd best all time. He's seen as that big play, downfield threat, which is true, but in a different style of offense, his volume will now be great too. Waddle's who I've probably gotten the most questions about as he's up here at wide receiver 11. I get it. First off, just want to preface that it is slightly beneficial to him that I kind of hate this range of receiver. ADP, wide receiver 11 to 20. Lots will be on the next slide even. But perception in fantasy is often fully based on the previous season. In 2022, Waddle was a wide receiver 1. In 2023, his numbers per route were better per play. So was he wide receiver 1? No, that's why his perception is off. He just played limited snaps and missed a lot of games, which hurt his numbers, and he falls to like wide receiver 20. But in terms of a player, he was actually better. Now, nothing changes. He's still an elite offense, except he just gets another year into his prime. Tyreek Hill kind of gets, a year older. And Adams, I get people liking him. If you like him, I won't talk you out of it. You can just close your ears. At the end of the day, for me, though, is he going to be top 5? What's his chances of being top 10? Probably not great. He was wide receiver 15 last year in points per game on the league's best volume. And I get the quarterback play, but then Minshew comes in. Yes, technically better, but come on. It's Gardner Minshew. Still a bottom 5 quarterback in the league. It won't be this massive leap. They'll be run first, and they add Brock Bowers. But the big thing for me is like drafting the wide receiver 10 in ADP to be the wide receiver 10 when he's about to be 32 years old. That's just not what I'm looking for. The other 2 guys that I'm high on, almost by default as well, is DJ Moore and Devontae Smith. Devontae, what I mentioned earlier with A.J. Brown. Kellen Moore comes in, he could be massive for him. Smith is super consistent, a great floor, and now he could get a little bit more of that motion offense, a little more of that role closer to CD and Keenan Allen, and really take that next leap. DJ, I already had high. He's still the wide receiver one on the team with a quarterback that I have faith in, but that was cemented for me when I created the valuable volume rank. His flaw this season was what? He's got Keenan Allen now, Rome Odunze. It's his volume, and yet his volume is better than his current ADP. And finally on this is Mike Evans, a great example again of perception being fully within the last year. He's wide receiver 14 in ADP, finished wide receiver 10 last season. That makes sense. The year prior though, his ADP, does anybody remember what it was last August? Wide receiver 35. 35. There was a reason for that. It's all the same reasons his ADP should be lower right now. 31 years old, poor quarterback play, super high risk. So why did it work last year? Well, Baker didn't really help as much as you would think. He's still the fourth lowest on target rate. They just threw a ton, which obviously helped. Dave Canales, the play caller, helped. And Mike Evans more than doubled his touchdown total from the year prior to lead the league. Touchdown regression is coming, and I don't want to be on the boat in season 11 with a subpar situation again. Deontay is like the Kyle Pitts of receivers now. Fantasy players will swear he's not good. Not because he hasn't been good in the league, but because he hasn't been good in fantasy. That's not how it works. He's in a completely new situation. Everything is trending toward him being top 10 in targets this season. The coach and quarterback are a beautiful fit. Even with Bryce Young being, unproven, it's better than 45-year-old Ben Roethlisberger or Kenny Pickett last year. I will not be shocked one bit if he's back to being a top 10 fantasy receiver this season. And Flowers is a guy I recently moved up. I got some pushback because of a healthy Andrews, which I can understand, but they can completely coexist. Why? Well, quickly, off the top of your head, name the Ravens wide receiver 2. Go. Well, right now, it's Nelson Aguilar. So, yeah, there's enough to go around. Everything has been a constant for Zay this offseason, where a player grows the most between year 1 and year 2. And last season, Todd Monken, play caller, already gave him the second most designed targets, tied with Tyreek Hill behind only Jamar Chase. Moving on to Pittman, his strengths, I just don't see shining in fantasy this season. I think he's a better NFL player than fantasy player for this year. He is not a touchdown scorer, first off, and that will only decrease with a healthy Richardson and Taylor in the red zone. Second, Minshew was a plus over Richardson. AR was last in catchable target rate, and yes, small sample size, but still, it wasn't like he was 20th in catchable target rate. He was last. It'll get better, but it won't be amazing. And it's a low passing volume offense, low efficiency passing offense, and he's not the downfield big play touchdown scorer. So he's the target hog intermediate threat. That's not really the strength of this offense. And quickly, Jaden Reed, 4th in fantasy points per target, dominant yak, the only person that should actually be somewhat compared to Debo. He just needs more snaps. That's not guaranteed, but Christian Watson probably got hurt in the time it took to make this video, and I believe that Reed is just the best receiver on the team. This range is the rookie range. If they bust, they bust. But at the end of the day, every season, rookie receivers are often the biggest ADP values at the end of the year. Worthy, Thomas, Ladd can all legit be their team's wide receiver 1. And who's throwing on the ball? Oh, just Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence. All three of them are flawed, but the reports of their versatility, the coach's game plan, all have been positive. Even for Ladd and the Chargers being run first, second, and third offense, he can still get volume because of that receiver room and how they plan on deploying him, that Keenan Allen-esque role. And lastly, wide receiver 41 to 50. I'm in love with JSN as a talent. So I slowly and surely am creeping him up here. It's a tough situation, but I do love him. Addison and Hopkins, on the other hand, have so much going against them. Hopkins, 5 out of 5 risk score. It's like nothing is good for him. Addison, before the injury, was already facing major historical touchdown regression, bad quarterback play, and isn't even the wide receiver 1 on his own team. Not to mention, again, Hawkinson is there too. And Wicks is the exact same reason as Jaden Reed, just on a smaller, more of a sleeper scale. I'll end with Shakir. I'm not confident one bit in year 1 Keon Coleman. I'm not anti-Keon Coleman as a talent, but it's red flag after red flag right now. And Shakir can be the benefactor. He's the only returning receiver. They add Keon Coleman and a role player in Curtis Samuel, although I like him in terms of fantasy role player. Like I talked earlier, the biggest bump is year 1 to year 2. He went from 160 yards to 611 yards. The second biggest bump, well, it's year 2 to year 3.